There are moments of sudden, devastating violence that are recorded, not by a witness or a camera, but by the victims themselves. It was a quiet Memorial Day morning in 2007 in rural Ogden, Iowa. At 11:10 a.m., Boone County Dispatch received a frantic 911 call. On the line was Michael Hill, a local man who worked on a sheep farm. The sound was frantic, muffled, and difficult to decipher, but the words were clear enough for the dispatcher to grasp the horrific meaning. "I shot myself." Michael, whom everyone knew as Shane, gasped into the phone. Shane was known to carry a pistol while working to protect his flock. The initial assumption by responding paramedics and law enforcement was accidental self-infliction, an awful but tragic accident involving a hardworking man.
911, what is the emergency?
I've been shot.
How were you shot, sir?
No, I don't know. The gun just went off.
But Shane's condition was rapidly worsening, so 6 minutes later, he called 911 a second time, desperate to secure aid. It was reportedly during that second, final call that investigators would later hear the sound of a muffled gunshot. And this second shot, the subsequent autopsy would confirm, was not from a pistol at close range. It was from a rifle.
911 emergency.
Yeah, I shot myself. My phone just went dead. Please get the guy back on the phone.
Are you in Greene County, sir?
I don't know.
Sir? Sir? Stay with me, sir. Stay with me.
Michael Shane Hill hadn't accidentally shot himself. He had been gunned down, and the investigation into who killed the hardworking sheep farmer began with his immediate social circle. Welcome back to the Silent Files, where real crimes reveal hidden truths. On this channel, we investigate some of the most gripping true crime cases. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. Now let's dive into the chilling case of Michael Shane Hill. Michael Shane Hill was born in 1977 in Iowa. He spent his childhood among the fields and pastures. In Boone County, he learned the value of work, of soil, and of patience. As a young man, he took to the road, driving trucks across long stretches, away from home for days, cultivating a quiet resilience. Yet he always gravitated back to the land. After years on the road, he made a decision: trade miles for presence. He left trucking behind and began working closer to home. He was employed on a sheep farm outside Ogden, fulfilling a role that allowed him to stay put, build roots, and be among those he loved. In his community, people saw Shane as reliable, grounded, and unassuming. He wasn't flashy or loud. He wasn't meant to stand out, but he carried the weight of promise, someone you could trust, someone who did what he said he would do. As time would have it, Shane started dating a 16-year-old named Jessica. Born in August 1982, Jessica was also a small-town girl. She knew quiet routines, school, neighbors, local churches, the rhythm of weather and seasons. From early on, she moved with ease through her world, not seeking center stage, but living in the spaces around it. When Jessica and Shane met, their worlds already felt familiar. He, with a love for the fields and animals. She, with a heart for home and community. In 2002, they married. The union wasn't flashy, but it resonated with quiet logic. Together, they had 2 children. For a time, they seemed to be building a quintessential Iowa family life. As with most marriages under the strain of life's responsibilities, the bond between Shane and Jessica became fragile. That life, built on those young vows, was about to be destroyed by a devastating breach of trust. A breach that began when Shane, with his big heart, made a mistake no husband should ever make. Shane, always the good friend, offered a helping hand to a friend named Daniel Blair. Daniel was going through a tough time, and Shane considered and loved him like a brother. Given their close bond, it was only natural for Shane to invite him to live with him without a second thought. In a cruel twist of Shane's kindness, an affair between Jessica Hill and Daniel Blair began shortly after he moved in. In 2005, however, Shane discovered the devastating betrayal of his wife and close friend. One night, Shane pretended to leave for a job but drove his truck down the road, walked back, and caught them together. He was brokenhearted and immediately kicked Daniel out. The discovery caused Jessica to leave Shane as well, taking the children with her to live with her lover for a period of about 3 months. But marriage and family ties are strong, and for the sake of their children, Jessica eventually returned to Shane. Shane, desperately in love with his wife, took her back. He even attempted to repair his relationship with Daniel Blair. Yet, the betrayal lingered. The two men who were once like brothers were now enemies, bound by a shared painful history, and the woman caught between them. The two men's friendship never recovered. There was constant tension, and according to friends, they often talked about beating each other up. For nearly 2 years after she returned home, Jessica maintained the facade of a devoted wife, but she was deeply unhappy. She told police and others that her reunion with Shane was strained, fueled by resentment, and her claims that he was only interested in her sexually, not romantically. Meanwhile, the clandestine text communication between Jessica and Daniel Blair never truly broke. They messaged constantly, and in these messages, Jessica complained bitterly about her life with Shane. Investigators would later find a disturbing pattern in their correspondence. Jessica repeatedly told Blair and others that she wished Shane would disappear or that she wished he wouldn't come home. To Daniel Blair, the man still infatuated with her and consumed by jealousy over Shane, these complaints weren't just venting. They were an invitation. They reinforced the idea that if Shane were gone, they could finally be together, and Jessica wouldn't have to worry about him anymore. The motive for murder was simple: convenience. Jessica wanted her freedom and her lover, but she didn't want the mess of divorce. She needed a permanent solution to her temporary unhappiness. Daniel Blair knew he couldn't carry out the crime alone. He needed an accomplice. He turned to his friend and current roommate, Aaron Moss. Moss lived with Blair at a separate residence in Boone County, and it was there, away from the Hill family home, that they began to plot the murder. The planning was meticulous and chillingly detailed. Blair and Moss acquired the murder weapon, a rifle. Records showed that on May 17, 2007, just 11 days before the murder, Blair and an unidentified man, presumably Aaron Moss, purchased 2 boxes of ammunition. They were preparing to carry out the ultimate betrayal against the man who had sheltered Blair when he needed it most. Crucially, the conspirators decided to stage the killing as an accident, one that mirrored the risks Shane already took every day. They knew Shane carried a pistol for farm chores. They planned to use Shane's own habit, the presence of a firearm, to mask their professional execution. May 28, 2007, Memorial Day. This was the day they chose to honor the pact. Jessica was still living with Shane. Her final role in the conspiracy was setting the stage. That morning, she messaged Daniel Blair. When Blair asked what Shane was driving and where he was going, Jessica provided the exact details. The last text from Jessica was the signal. Shane had finally left for work. Blair and Moss drove to the rural sheep farm in Ogden. They took up a position of concealment, likely in or near a barn, waiting for Shane to arrive and begin his chores. When Shane arrived, the plan was put into action. As Shane was working, the two men moved in for the kill. A passenger in a nearby car would later report seeing a man, identified as Aaron Moss, walking across the farmyard carrying a rifle around the time of the shooting. Shane Hill was shot, but the conspirators hadn't just relied on the staging of an accidental shooting. They relied on Shane's own confusion and instincts. When he was struck by the first round from Aaron Moss, Shane immediately believed he had shot himself with his own pistol. He didn't suspect a killer. He instinctively called 911 for help. Then, during that frantic, desperate 911 call, the execution was completed. The second shot, the rifle round that was clearly distinguishable on the audio, was fired from a distance, hitting Shane while he was still struggling to talk to the dispatcher. The second shot ensured he would never tell the real story. Blair later confessed to a friend, Lisa Lewis, that they had made somebody disappear and that Aaron pulled the trigger. They had killed their friend because, as Blair put it, they did not like the way he was treating his wife. The initial interviews with Jessica Hill after Shane's death established her perfect, calculated lie. She was the heartbroken widow. She told investigators she had last seen Daniel Blair 4 months ago. She minimized their post-affair contact, portraying their relationship as long since concluded.
I know that they talked to you the other day about your relationship with Dan Blair.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we kind of go over that again?
It's been about 2.5 years, so 05. And then Shane and I got back together. Dan and I did talk periodically after that for a good 2 years. I really didn't go over and see him. He always knew that I choose Shane over him.
And reasonably, the relationship was a little more than...
About 4 months ago, I had contacted him again. We did get together once.
When was that?
2, maybe 3 months ago, I'm not exactly sure.
How often have you been talking to him, say in the last 6 months?
Maybe once a week. I did bitch to him a lot when Shane and I were having problems.
Okay. What would you complain about, or?
Oh, him being an ass. Not being grateful and a lot of verbal abuse that nobody ever saw.
The tragic spectacle continued for the Hill family. Jessica, the grieving wife, was being comforted by Shane's own mother, even staying with her. It was in this environment that Jessica made her first crucial mistake. She used a computer in Shane's mother's home. Shane's mother, observing the activity on the computer, suspected something was amiss. She reviewed the contents and found messages that contradicted every single word Jessica had told the police. The messages were a series of "I love you," "I miss you," and constant intimate exchanges between Jessica and Daniel Blair. The affair wasn't over, it was deeply entrenched.
Boone County Communications.
Yes, is Kenneth Kendall in, please? I need to speak to him as soon as possible.
This is Sergeant Kendall. Can I help you?
Yes, Mr. Kendall, this is Patricia Hill.
Yes.
Hill's mother?
Yes.
You know, I just got on the internet on my son's computer.
Yes.
And I'm very concerned because you remember me telling you about this Danny Blair?
Yes.
That was with his wife?
Yep.
There is emails on there from him to my daughter-in-law telling her how much he loved her, he missed her, giving her hugs and kisses. I am really concerned with this.
How recently was
They were
it?
this morning. The date is this morning.
Armed with this new digital evidence, the police were notified, and investigators called Jessica back in. When confronted with the truth of the messages, Jessica's entire demeanor changed. Her carefully constructed facade crumbled. She admitted that the relationship with Blair was ongoing, that they met secretly, and that she had been messaging him as recently as the morning of the murder. She admitted to telling Blair when Shane left for work, and even what he was driving. However, she maintained her denial on the critical point. She did not ask Daniel to kill Shane. Jessica insisted she never paid anyone and never wanted it to happen. She was simply complaining. Yet, the police now knew she had set the scene, provided the coordinates, and given the final go signal to a man she knew was infatuated with her and resentful of her husband. With Jessica heavily implicated by her own text messages, the police turned their full pressure onto Daniel Blair. When brought in for questioning, Blair was initially defiant. He still claimed to the agents that he loved Shane like a brother and maintained his innocence. But when investigators presented him with the overwhelming evidence, the ammunition purchases, the cell phone records, and the damning message from Jessica, he finally cracked. Blair confessed everything. He described the conspiracy, how they hid, how the first shot was fired, and how Shane thought he'd shot himself. But he held to one final lie. He claimed he couldn't pull the trigger. He told police his friend and roommate, Aaron Moss, was the one who fired the final, fatal rifle shot. Blair gave a full, detailed confession, trading his testimony for a chance at a reduced charge, though he still faced life.
This is not something that I think that you saw yourself involved in. Okay. but I think that you allowed your emotions, your love for Jessica. Okay, you love Jessica, don't you?
I've always loved her.
Okay.
I couldn't shoot Shane.
Okay.
Because even though we had our problems, I still love him like a brother.
Okay. Who did you have shoot Shane then?
I didn't have no one.
Who was with you at the farm that morning?
I wasn't at the farm.
Daniel, listen to me. Okay. Those excuses are out. Okay? There's no question where you were. You talked about this before. You discussed it with Jessica.
On June 8, 2007, just 11 days after the murder, Daniel Blair, Aaron Moss, and Jessica Hill were all arrested for Shane's murder. Jessica's arrest was notoriously dramatic, reportedly occurring at Shane's funeral. The heartbroken widow, caught in a final agonizing display of hypocrisy. The prosecution's theory was simple. Jessica was the catalyst who used her intimate knowledge of the men to arrange a convenient execution. Blair was the jealous lover and orchestrator, and Moss was the accomplice and triggerman. Due to the complexity of the conspiracy, the three defendants were tried separately. The proceedings resulted in 3 swift convictions. Daniel Blair was convicted of first-degree murder. Aaron Moss was convicted of second-degree murder for his role as the accomplice. Jessica Hill, whose trial was moved from Boone County to Pottawatomie County due to intense pretrial publicity, was found guilty of the lesser-included offense of aiding and abetting second-degree murder. Jessica Hill's initial sentence was a severe 50 years in prison, the maximum possible for a second-degree murder charge. Aaron Moss also received a 50-year sentence. Daniel Blair, the primary orchestrator, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The prosecution and the family felt justice had been served, but the legal battle for Jessica Hill was far from over. The path to conviction for Jessica Hill was complicated by the law. Her trial relied heavily on statements she made to police, including her admissions about the affair and the text messages. Her legal team successfully appealed the conviction, arguing that some of her incriminating statements should have been suppressed because the lengthy police interview crossed the line into a custodial interrogation, meaning she should have been given her Miranda warnings. The appeal was successful, and her conviction for second-degree murder was reversed in 2011. Facing a new trial and knowing the strength of the text message evidence still tying her to the crime, Jessica Hill made a strategic decision. She took a plea deal. In 2012, Jessica Hill pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit murder and accessory after the fact. The consequence of this legal maneuver was immense. Her original 50-year sentence was dramatically reduced to a mere 12 years in prison. This reduction was a devastating blow to the family of Michael Shane Hill, who had watched Daniel Blair receive life, while Jessica, the woman they believed masterminded the entire plot, had secured a path back to freedom in a matter of years. In 2012, just 5 years after she planned the death of her husband, Jessica Hill was sentenced to 12 years. She was the one who set the execution in motion, yet she was given the lightest sentence of the 3 conspirators. As of 2025, Jessica Hill would have likely been released from prison. However, no credible information has been found to confirm the exact date of her release. The story of Michael Shane Hill is a testament to the fact that not all motives are complex. It was a murder fueled by simple, destructive infidelity, facilitated by a betrayal of friendship, and covered up by a fatal lie. Shane Hill died on a sheep farm, thinking he had accidentally shot himself. His last moments were spent desperately trying to save his own life, a life taken by his wife, her lover, and their friend. Daniel Blair remains behind bars, serving life without parole for first-degree murder. Aaron Moss is serving his time for his role in the killing. But for the family of Michael Hill, the pain of the betrayal is compounded by the fact that the woman who set the tragedy in motion now walks free. Jessica Hill managed to walk away from the murder of her husband and the father of her children with a drastically reduced sentence. Her freedom is a perpetual reminder that sometimes the greatest crime is not the motive, but the lack of justice for the victim. This concludes the tragic case of Michael Shane Hill. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this case, and if you enjoy true crime cases like these, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like the video, and turn on your notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thanks for watching this episode of The Silent Files, where real crimes reveal hidden truths.